my last layered pocket, I'm going to make a stacked pocket again, so one with angles going up, but I'm actually going to make them all on the same angle. So I'm just going to start with this orange paper here. Looks like it's a bit messy there, so I'll just cut that part off. I'm just going to start by cutting this on an angle here, and I'm actually going to make a bit of a smaller pocket this time. I'll probably need that again in a minute. I shouldn't have put that away. Just trimming off those fluffy bits again there. As I've said, if you've got a decent blade on your cutter, you're probably not going to have this, or if you just use a pair of scissors. The reason I don't leave the fluffy bits on there, although they do look quite cool, they are going to come off quite quickly. So any effect that they give now isn't going to last too long. Maybe just under 5 inches for this, so it's almost going to be the length of my page. So that's what we're going to have for the pocket. So once again, I'm going to do some inking on these, some stenciling. And I'm quite liking this one, and I like having it stacked with a bit of a lighter colour behind it. So let's see where my other stencil. Alright, there we go. I might actually ink these ones in green as well. So I'm liking the green against the orange. So I'm just going to go quite lightly with this first stencil. Very light there. And with this one, once again, I'm just going to do that top strip that we'll actually be able to see with the other pocket on there. So the rest of that will be covered, just like that. So no point wasting the material doing the whole thing. And I think what I might do is actually line these up how I'm going to have them stacked, and then stencil over the both of them together there. So that just adds something a little bit extra, and I'm just going to ink the edges in green as well. So I quite like inking the edges, especially for these stacked pockets, because it does help make the line between the two pockets a lot more distinct. maybe I want to add a couple of those hexagons that I'd stamped earlier out. So I'm going to use one in brown and one in green and sort of stack them on top of each other there. So with something like this especially, because it's from the same colour paper as underneath, if I didn't ink the edges, it would be very hard to see where that one actually started, whereas inking the edges makes it look a lot more like an individual piece that's been put over the top rather than just another piece of the paper. And I'm going to glue the bottom and the side edges on this one and attach them together. So this one's quite simple, there's not a lot to it. It only took a couple of minutes, as you could see, but I think it does look quite effective, and you can, if you want to add something a little bit extra, if you want to make it stand out a little bit more, then you can do that by what you add into the pockets as well. There you go, a nice quick couple of minutes stacked pocket. I think with this one I might make some journaling cards cut on a similar angle there. So I think I'm going to do them in brown and keep it relatively subtle. So I don't want anything here to stand out too much. So to get the same angle, I'm just going to lay this out over my paper. And with this one, we went just under 5 inches, so these ones I'm going to do to 4.5 inches. And I think I might need to trim them down a little bit in terms of size. So I don't want them to sit too far out of there. I'm going to have to make them a bit shorter because they're not quite going to fit in there with the glue. We'll pop them down to 4 inches. Should fit in there a lot better. I'm going to use some of these old diary pages on the back just to make them lined. So I'm just going to glue them together and then cut that around the shape. So this is something that it's definitely best to use a glue stick for. So you just want to make sure that you get glue over the entirety of the back of that there. And I'm just going to use the line on the paper to line that up evenly. And I'm going to use the edge of my bone folder to press that down. Looks like it's going to curl a little bit, but that's alright. So any curl that we get in this, when it sits in the pocket, will straighten up quite a bit. I don't usually do this, but it looks like this book is going to have a lot of journaling spaces in it. So I don't usually write in mine that often. I use mine more as art books, but I'm fine for them to have the journaling spaces in there. So once I've given that a little bit to dry, I'm just cutting along the edges there. So you can use a cutter for this. I just find it easier to use scissors when I'm trying to cut along an exact line like this. So we've got lined on the back and plain on the front so far. So what I like to do, once I've got two pieces of paper stuck together like this, I like to just go over the very edge with my bone folder just to make sure that they're properly stuck together. Now I'm going to round the corners on the bottom of these ones, and I think I'll soften them on the top as well. So the corner rounder tends to only work for right angles, so if you've got a odd angle like this, you'll just have to do it by hand. So once again, it doesn't need to be perfect, but I just like it being a little bit less sharp there. So that's what we've got so far. So I did earlier cut out a few extra of these tabs that I used on the last journaling card, so I'll use those on these ones as well, just to keep it matching a little bit. So once again, I've just used a craft punch for this one. So that's the punch that I've used, and once they're punched out, I'm just folding them in half and going over the crease with my bone folder to make sure that that stays in place. I think with these ones, I'm actually going to put them off to the side like that when I'm ready to add them on. Now, because we got a fair bit of stenciling on here, I don't want to make them look exactly the same. I think I might actually just ink the edges and do a little bit of stamping on there, and then we'll call it at that. So just inking this one in green as well to match what we have on the envelope a bit better. Sorry, on the pocket. I'm going to ink both sides of this one. I do like the look of the green along the edge of the white there. This paper's more of a cream than a white. But I didn't want to have stark white in this journal because I think it would contrast too strongly with the neutral colours that I'm using throughout the rest of it. I'm not actually going to do any stenciling on the front, but I will do a little matching stencil on the writing side on these ones, I think. I think I'm going to go for this little rose here and do that in brown. Maybe just do a line of those along the side. I think that'll be enough to just sort of give these a little bit extra. just a little bit something so they're not entirely plain there. And I am going to ink the tabs in brown though. Because they are already green, I don't think the green would really stand out that much on them. And this will just help give them a bit of extra contrast against that brown background of the card as well. So now I'm just going to glue these along the edge here. So a good way to line these up if you're not too confident with it is you can start by just putting glue along where it's going to sit on the bottom edge. I'm not sure if you can see that there. There we go. And just gluing down that edge first. And then adding glue to the rest of it and sticking it on. So once again, I'm just going to use the edge of my bone folder to get that nice crease line there. And then they will sit in there like that. So that's the finished stack pocket and 2 more journaling cards.